Max Holloway gave his prediction for his rival Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. Volk and Topuria are set to face off at UFC 298 for the featherweight title. Despite the majority of fans siding with Topuria due to his young age and dominant skills, Holloway believes Volkanovski will get the win. Here is what he said.
I think Alex is Alex. You know, it's hard to bet against a guy. If you're a betting man, how do you bet against him? You know, at the end of the day, I think Alex's coaches them is smart. They know what they're doing. I think if Alex don't get hurt in training camp for this fight, I think it'll be fine. You know, and I think their coaches are smart enough to think, you know, Eugene them and his whole core group, they're all smart guys, you know, and I think they're not going to set up Alex for failure. You know, they're going to set him up for success. So I think so if the fight goes through, everything happening, that means Alex had a great camp, and I think he'd be fine. I think the fight would be fine. I know Topuria is a killer. He's a killer in every way of the sense. He's a young guy, but we see what happens, you know, how much time somebody's supposed to do something to me, all these younger guys, and then I go out there, you know, I have a great fight. So at the end of the day, we have to see what happens, you know. I hate picking fights, but if I was a betting man, you know, it's hard to bet against Alex, but I can understand why people are going to Topuria.
Robert Whitaker isn't concerned about Paulo Costa not showing up for their UFC 298 fight. Despite both sides agreeing to the bout on that card, Costa mentioned in a recent interview with Ariel Helwani that he hasn't signed the contract yet. However, Whittaker doesn't seem bothered by it. Here's his response. Not really worried. It's always so funny with contracts and contract signing. I didn't even realize that was like a thing. I haven't signed, or whatever. UFC comes here and they say, hey, do you want to fight X on this date? And I say yes, right? When I say I'm in for something, that's it, I'm down. Doesn't matter if I sign the contract today or 2 days before the fight, I said I'll be there, that's what I'm doing. Whether or not I was worried about it actually falling through, not really. Like other times, I would fight someone. UFC would get me to fight someone. And I think it's a good fight for him. I think it's a good fight for me. We're both high-level middleweights, both trying to work our way back to the top of the food chain. I don't see any reason for him not to show up. Whittaker remains unfazed, but given Costa's history of fight pullouts, nothing is certain until he steps inside the octagon. Chael Sonnen doesn't think the Conor McGregor vs. Michael Chandler fight will ever happen. Even though Conor announced he'll face Chandler on June 29th this summer, Sonnen still believes it won't happen. Here's what he said. With Conor, it doesn't matter if the excuse is the weight class, they're not going to do it. That's it, that's all you have to do. Okay, the weight class, we agree on the weight class, we change the rules, we got to put it in a cage. We put it in the cage, I'll only fight him in a ring. It's one of these things, it doesn't matter what's the answer. That's not a real reason to get in the way of a fight if somebody wants to fight. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I think that Conor is actually having this problem. I don't think the UFC is booking this fight. Sean O'Malley has speculated that Conor, with the new structure, the new pay structure of the UFC, that Conor has priced himself in a position where he's less attractive. There is definitely a truth to that, or is it something that we're not considering? Josh Thomson isn't pleased with Khamzat Chimaev's recent behavior, especially claiming he deserves a title shot in the middleweight division without having fought there. Thomson thinks it's a bad look for the sport, and makes Chimaev come across as a bit of a crybaby.
He hasn't fought one contender at 185 pounds, and he's over here saying he deserves a title shot. Give me somebody in the top 5. You have a dominant performance, or you look good at 185 pounds against someone in the top 5, I'll go ahead and warrant, and I'll say that go right ahead and give him a title shot, because the hype is around him. But right now, after listening to his interviews and all this, he sounds like a crybaby. You know, I was promised this, I was promised that. Since when does Dana give a shit what he's promised? Okay, we've seen before in the past, he's promised fighters a lot. Look, you didn't have a great performance against Kamaru Usman. You lost the 3rd round against a guy who's a pumped up 170 pounder who's pumped up to 185.
Well, not only pumped up
on short notice,
a guy that came in on a couple days notice.
Yeah. So
and you're losing the third
Yeah.
round to him.
Not a good look. And I said this. So I need to see him fight someone like a Marvin Vettori or Jared Cannonier. I need to see him fight one of those top level guys before I go out there and say, hey, let's give you the title shot.
Thanks for watching. If you're a fan of MMA, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Also leave a comment below with your thoughts on today's news. Keep supporting the sport, and we'll see you in the next one.